Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're not gonna go over the alphabet again. We've been over it a number of times already. If this is your first time here, you're not really sure what that means. Say something in the comments or message me, and I can get you caught up with that. Just remind everyone to work on the sounds that we don't have in English. So make sure you're working on the difference between the ah and the ah and the and the and practice getting the stresses in, practice trying to get the glottal stops in. So that's pretty much all I'll say about that. Next, we usually talk about the dictionary. We've been over the idea of the dictionary quite a bit. We're gonna go into it in a little more depth when we start talking about the group chat. So we won't go over that right now. So we're going to go right into a little bit of review of our verb conjugation, and then we're going to add in a few more concepts, and then we're going to talk about the group chat a little bit. And then when we're finished with that, we're going to go back to verb conjugation and talk about we're going to add in a couple more concepts for verb conjugation at the end. We're not going to go over them really, we're just going to introduce them. So you can get an idea about where we're headed for the next couple classes. So then we won't have class. We'll have class on Wednesday. We won't have class on Christmas Day. Or we will have, we'll have class on Wednesday. We won't have class on Christmas Day, and then there'll be one more class after that on that next Wednesday where we'll wrap everything up. So if you have stuff that you're still trying to work on, that you need a little extra help with, let me know, and I'll try to get to that stuff either during class or maybe we can do one more class after that to work on any subjects that you guys feel like you're not understanding. Okay, so first let's talk about the verb conjugation. We've been over what prefixes and suffixes are, and how they work with the verb stems. But I wanted to sort of make a point about why that's important. So let's just do a quick review here. So for first person aspect, we learned that you don't put anything in front of the stem. So you just have nothing there. You go right into the verb, and then you add the tense. Okay. And then we talked about 3 different tenses. We talked about the past, the present, and the future. So we pretty much just covered those 3. We've touched on a few other ones, but those have been the main ones we've gone over when we discuss verb conjugation. So anytime that you just go right into the verb and you add a tense, that's 3 sentences that you can make with just the tense. Okay, now second person is the same thing, right? Only when we add context, we can figure out who's doing the what and when they're doing. So that gives us a total of 3. And then we did the third person. And that is where we added the HI plus the verb plus the tense. Okay. So that's a total of 9. 9 different sentences that you can make by knowing one verb stem. And that's just the 3 tenses and the 1 prefix for third person. 9 different. So every time you add a verb to whatever it is that you're to your vocabulary, you're multiplying how many sentences you can make by 9. So if you just know one verb, you would know, if it's, say it's the verb for do, I did, I'm doing, I'm gonna do, you did, you're doing, you're going to do, he did, he's doing, and he's going to do. So that's 9 total sentences. Every time you add a verb to your vocabulary now, you're multiplying the number of sentences you can make by 9 just by understanding these concepts. And that's why the system is really important. So we're going to transition now from, first thing that we're going to do is add in a couple more tenses. So we're going to add in 2 more tenses today. Actually, we're going to add in 2 more, a little bit of both. So we're going to talk about plurals, and we're going to talk about pluralizing first person, second person, and third person, and we're going to talk about pluralizing the tense. So we're going to add 2 more. We're going to add 1 more prefix and 1 more suffix. Okay. So now when we do that, all of these change to 5, right? Now we can make, by adding those, let's just leave that there. Now we're going to add, we'll just do it like this. Now we'll have the plurals. That'll be a prefix and a suffix. So every time we add a prefix or a suffix or a verb to our vocabulary, we're multiplying the number of sentences that we can create, the number of ideas that we can communicate exponentially. So we're going to add in the present tense plural, and we're going to add in how to pluralize the aspect. And just like that, we're adding more sentences in. Okay, and so this is we're gonna kind of stop with adding prefixes and suffixes after this, and start talking more about the rules of what happens when you start putting the prefixes and the suffixes with the verbs, because there's quite a few rules. Once you start adding them together, things start happening, and that's called morphology. And we learned one of those concepts already, which was vowel harmony. So when you add prefixes and suffixes, start interacting with verbs that have strong vowel sounds versus weak vowel sounds, it starts to change the whole word. And there's other rules like that too. There's a whole bunch of them. I have a sheet here that I think goes over like 10 of them that we're going to talk about today, or introduce sort of at the end. But I wanted to just kind of give you guys an idea already. Now, if this is class number 9, if you've been coming this long, you've followed along with all these things, now you're able to make 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. You can make 15 sentences with just one verb. So now when you're out there interacting with each other, when we're interacting in the group chat, when you're going through the dictionary and working on this stuff on your own with just what we've learned with simple aspect and simple tense. Every time that you learn a verb after today, that's 15 sentences that you can make, and that comes in handy. Not only just trying to communicate with each other, but it comes in handy when you start looking at worksheets. Kristen teaches a class on Tuesdays at noon. It's over Zoom, I believe. You should go check that out. And what'll happen is, like I think the last one was about weather, or maybe it was the next one was going to be about weather. She starts talking about weather terms, and it's raining and it's snowing, and so you'll be able to use what you learned here about simple prefixes and suffixes to sort of break apart what's happening in those sentences. So like when she's saying it is raining outside, she's using verb conjugation to communicate, something simple that we can all use and in our everyday speech. But having these tools here will help you break apart that word and figure out what's happening with it. And then when you can do that, you can say other things like it will rain or it did rain. And all I'm really trying to do is introduce to you the idea, right? The concept of how this works. And then as you go on about your language studies and you start adding more prefixes, you start adding more suffixes, you start adding more verbs, you're just building on top of the idea of how the language is put together so that you can communicate ideas that are important to you. So once this class is finished, we're going to talk a little bit in the last class about focusing on the things that are important to you. And we talked about it a little bit before, but we'll be more specific in the last class. What is it that's really motivating you about learning the language? Is it going to the longhouse? Is it because you're a new mom and you want to talk about things that happen around the house, like get yourself dressed and sit down and eat your dinner kind of things? When you start diving into themed lessons around those ideas, it'll really help you expand your ability to communicate ideas quickly. So that's my rant about that. Okay, so we sort of touched on it already. When we pluralize the subject, we're going to use this prefix pa, pe. And so when you put that on the front, it changes from I went in to we went in. Simple as that. Now, what you got to kind of keep in mind when you're looking through these that there's some vowel harmony stuff happening here. So the word for go in has the strong vowels, so the PE changed to PA so that they'll all match up. The word for go has weaker vowel sounds, so the PE stays PE, and you get pakuye. That's it. It's that easy. There's a whole bunch of other. I mean, we'll talk about a few when we go into talking about the group chat. But there's a whole bunch of other prefixes and suffixes that you can put on things that really change that you can use to add on to your words. And so we're just covering the basics: singular, plural, first person, second person, third person, and then tense. And there's all other kinds of prefixes and suffixes you can add on there. So now every time you do that, based on these, you're multiplying the number of sentences that you can produce exponentially. So that one's pretty simple. You just put the pa on the front, and you've pluralized it. You've gone from I to we. Now you can put the two. You can put the two together, and so you can add the he for third person and the pa for plural, and pluralize in the third person. So it becomes they, right? So he means we're talking about people over there. You put the pa in there, so you could say hipakuya, they went. Now you just created another sentence, another way to change that verb to go to include three more ideas, 4 more ideas. Okay, now I want to talk about the present tense when we pluralize that. It's down here a little ways. Sometimes these worksheets that we were putting together back in the day don't make a whole lot of sense the way we ordered them, I don't think. So we talked a little bit about sa, so that's like the ing for singular subjects, but when you're trying to put ing for plural subjects, you use sik. Okay, and the pa doesn't get used with the sik. So if you're gonna say I went, or excuse me, we went, or we will go, then you would use the pa. But if you're doing it right now, then it changes to a suffix and it becomes sik, sik. One of the rules that we're going to start talking about, as you can see down here, when we change it to sik, it's not sik anymore, it's six. And so that's one of the rules. When k ends at the end of the word, it spirantizes into an x. So you'll almost always see it show up as sich, atzich, pinmixich, kusich. You only see that k when you add another suffix on past that, I believe is the rule. So let's go back and look at that worksheet that I had open. Dictionary. Make this font a little bit smaller so I can fit it on there. So let's reorganize this a little bit. Everybody understands the idea of the exponential thing, right? We don't need to keep all this up. So we have aspect, first and second, no prefix, and third person. I'm just gonna mark it with a 0 for right now. Nothing there. And then we have he, which is third person. And then we have ha, which is plural. And then then you can make he and ha together to make third person plural. And then we have tense. We've learned singular tenses, just the past tense. So the did, the doing, the will do. And now, oops. The plural. Progressive, the ing that we are doing. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just said 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So those are all the simple ones. With these, you should be able to say just about everything that you need to say at at a young person's level. So again, we're still doing some C-spot run type stuff here, but by learning these concepts, you can say just about everything that you need to say. Congratulations, everyone. You now can speak the language. So all you have to do now is build your vocabulary. So every time that you see a verb, you can run it through these processes and think about how it's going to change. For the real simple verbs, it's sometimes really easy. You can just put these pieces together and make a word. And that's the way most of the other Sahaptin dialects work. Like Umatilla, Yakima, Warm Springs, you can just put these pieces together, which they're almost the same, just a little bit different. Instead of the he, it's just an e. The sa is a sha. So you can just put in those languages, you can just put those together and make words, and it doesn't change a whole lot. There's some cases where it does change, but just not quite like Nez Perce does. But with the looking when you're looking through the dictionary and you're seeing all this weird stuff happen, it can be overwhelming. Like we're gonna switch gears now and talk a little bit about the group chat. We looked up that word. For those of you who aren't part of the group chat, I came across a word that was on a poster, and I put it into the group chat and asked if anybody wanted to take a shot at trying to unpack what was happening with that word. And we had a really good conversation. There were a lot of people that were involved that I thought was good. Denise was involved, Lewis, Jennifer, Melinda got involved, and everybody was asking good questions and trying to look at the word and break it apart. And I thought that's, in my mind, that's exactly what we should be doing in the group chat is people putting forward words or putting forward ideas, and then all of us working at trying to unpack those words. And for now, I'm sort of steering what happens in there, but anybody's willing to do. But I kind of want to keep it simple. I know that the first time we did the group chat, Lewis tried to put together a good sentence for us, a good translation to look at, and I thought that was great. But I want you guys to try to stick to just creating words with these tenses that we've gone over, the aspect and the tense that we've gone over so far, so that we're not getting. Some of you are pretty advanced students, but you can always work on this. You can always afford to work on this stuff going forward too. So I kind of want to keep it simple if you can. And you're welcome to just look up something in the dictionary. You don't have to think too hard about it. You can just pull it up in the dictionary, direct translation from the dictionary, and then we can all work at trying to unpack that. And so when we did that, we looked at the verb taklai, and it gave us almost, let's see, there's one section there, that whole page. Yeah, like a page and a half of a bunch of different examples. And you can see the word really change from each example to example. And so I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed by that, because you should be able to look at that, find the verb stem, find the tense, And then it gives you a translation right in English, so you can try to figure out, which parts of it are the tense and which part are the aspects. But it gave us a whole bunch of different examples, different prefixes that we hadn't gone over. It brought up the idea of the reciprocal prefix. We're talking about the benefactive suffix because it kind of looked like that one might be there on the end. And so it turned into a really good conversation, and I was really happy to see that. That's kind of where I want all of this to go, so that you're organically picking those prefixes and suffixes up as we're doing simple stuff. So you never know, like Melinda was asking a question about the suffix there. All of a sudden, we have this conversation about what it actually is, and now she can recognize a new suffix, and we had a good discussion about how it was we thought that the prefix was the way it was, and the verb stem was the way it was, and the suffix was the way it was. And so for some people, some parts of that stuff, maybe they it stuck good for them, and for other people, it's still a concept that we're struggling with a little bit. But having these tools allows you to sort of dig through all of those suggestions that the dictionary offers, and use ones that are good for you, that you're interested about. Some stuff's going to jump out and stick to you, and you're going to remember, and other stuff, you're going to have to come back to it. Sometimes you have to see it multiple times and hear it multiple times, and that's fine. The same thing happens with all of us in the way that we remember things. It's asking a lot to have everything that's on that page immediately be stuck in your mind, and you have the ability to pull it out and use it in your language. But as you go through there, you can see that the word really changes. So we have in the first couple pages here, in the first couple examples, we have it says tukalai, and then it gives us the VC. We touched on this a little bit. It's really important. It's the last one of the big four, and this is telling us that it's a C verb. So last week we talked a little bit about the rules that we want to remember. We went over vowel harmony, and the other thing that we talked about was these verb stems are divided into two different classes, the S class and the C class. So the dictionary right there is telling us that it's in the C class. So that means that we know, and again, the dictionary is not 100% perfect, right? We've figured out over the last few years that the verb stem really isn't taklai. It wouldn't be, because it would have to have an N on it for this C to occur. And then you can see it, it shows up. The N starts to show up in these translations that they offer. And we see the A start to disappear, and then it comes back, and then it shows up in other places. And so that's the next concept that we're going to disappear, is all of these different rules that happen when we start putting these prefixes on there. So in our first interaction in the group chat, we talked about may being a prefix, and look, there it is. It showed up right there in one of the examples. So they put together P, the reciprocal prefix. They put in inek as a prefix for carry, my, waya, and created this sentence here with all of those different prefixes on top of the root stem and a simple past tense, and we were able to make this idea that we met early in the morning, carrying things and changing places. That's amazing. I mean, that's how we do it. That's the beautiful part of the language. And so knowing and understanding these concepts will help you sort of unpack what's happening here, so you don't feel like you have to memorize every one of these examples. Instead, you can just you can memorize these prefixes and use them with other words, as long as we know what the rules are. So just scrolling through here, you can see that the root word is that they provided us was takalai. but that A disappeared right there. Why is the A gone? You can see the waya picked up the strong vowel tense there, so it changed from waya to waya. The wya changed to wio right there. Putting all of these together, and even the meaning of the word changed as we were adding these on there. You know, the poster was supposed to be about trading, and the examples offered go on to show a bunch of different meanings. Like this one means they exchanged clothes. Is it like trading? Yeah, but it's not really like a business transaction. It could also mean answering back, making a fast rebuttal, like we're having a verbal exchange. There was another interesting one in here that sort of made my eyebrows go up. Oh yeah, this one right here. They added the word for teeth on the front there, and it introduced this idea that exchanging teeth with someone was believed that if you exchange teeth with a grizzly bear, you would become one. It's kind of a cool little idea there. That happens in a few coyote stories. There was a oh, it was the one about the cross. Yeah, so there was a priest or a pastor who was trying to come up with a translation for the Christian cross, and he used the word crossing sticks to come up with the idea for cross. So kind of a cool way the suffix here means with sticks. What kalaiksa then becomes the word for cross. Suggested word for cross. There's probably more ways that you could say it than just that, but just a neat way that you could add the prefix on there and change it from trade to cross. So these ideas are going to help you unpack all of this stuff so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Instead, you can just kind of roll through them a little bit and get a feel for how they were using prefixes and suffixes to give their unique perspective of the word. Like this one right here, we have a practice in our culture where if your husband or passes away, then you start wearing dark clothing for the year that that person's passed away. So this word was offered as a way to show that she's changing from wearing bright colors and all the different colors to wearing a wardrobe that's more dark colors. I thought that was interesting too. So just out of the blue, we get a perfect example for the ideas that we were trying to convey, how we're using these prefixes and suffixes. And it's cool if one of these jumped out at you, like if for whatever reason, maybe you're in mourning with your husband right now, and that one jumped out at you, like, oh, there's a thing for that. Oh, now all of a sudden these prefixes and suffixes mean something a little bit different to you. It becomes a little more meaningful to you, and maybe they stay with you, and then you can apply them to other verbs. So again, those are the kind of interactions that I like and that I want to see. So what we're going to talk about a little bit more now is morphology. So why is it that in Takalai, why is it that A that's right there is now gone? It's gone again there. We already talked about why it's tsa and not sa. And you can see all of the examples of taklai are strong vowels. So every time you add one of these prefixes on there, like the wia is going to change to wia. It's going to take on that vowel. I think it was Janine asked about the I. You can see the I here doesn't change because the I can do either one, but the E's and the U's are going to change to A's and O's. So you see that happening a lot down here. And it's a good way to practice your stress. You know, you got this big long stack of prefixes here, and then you can see where the stress is at the end of the word. So being able to, you know, in a rhythmic way, get through all of those consonants and vowels and be able to put the emphasis of the word in the right spot takes some practice, and that's something, you know, you can hear somebody pronounce this word 50 times, and maybe it makes sense to you, but unless you're really working on it, you know, by yourself on your own time, being able to say the stress in the right place there is going to take some practice. So I'm not suggesting that these are the words that you guys practice on, but when you see these words pop up, you know, silently by yourself, take a stab at it. So it wouldn't be so easy, you know. So you could even just say it to yourself as slowly as tuck liked, talk liked, tuck liked, weaving. We're talking about trading, and all of a sudden now this can be used as a word for weaving, which there was a weaving class just going on not too long ago, so that might be something that sticks in your mind too. And so those concepts are what we call morphology. So when we start putting these things together, how is the word going to change? What's going to happen when the word changes? And this is where Nez Perce is super rich in all of these ideas. Just a ton of rules that that apply when we start adding them together. Just wait for this document to open here. It's a worksheet, an old worksheet I found about them. Very first one is the most common one, which we already discussed. N plus S becomes C. I gotta kind of forgive my my fonts here. I need to start changing all these documents over to work on my Mac. But that's rule number one. Rule number two talks about what happens when N plus S and N plus K and N plus T, those will delete at the end of the word, and only the N survives. And there's a bunch of these rules. The rule for why the Y deletes, how vowels get added in. We talked a little bit about this. The sich, how if you have K, it becomes X, and Q becomes the glottalized X. Just fix it while we're here so there's no confusion. Oops. Before N or at the end of the word. And I'm not expecting you guys to remember these or even to be writing them down right now. I'm just introducing the idea that the way these rules interact with all these pieces changes. You know, that's the reason why that stuff is happening in the dictionary. The stress can change. I thought this was a great way of explaining how the stress placement works. So if you have a stressed suffix, it's going to have precedence over a stressed prefix, right? So if your prefix doesn't show a stress, see, like this one shows a stress, that one shows a stress. If your prefix shows a stress and your suffix doesn't show a stress, then the prefix gets the stress. If the suffix has one and the prefix has one, then it's the suffix that gets precedence. If you have a stressed root, and a stress prefix, the stress prefix will carry the stress. That one has precedence. The outermost prefix or suffix has precedence. Otherwise, there's penultimate stress where there's no morpheme inherent stress. What that means is the stress then becomes on the second to last syllable of the word unless our verb stem or any of our morphemes contain a stress. So none of them have an inherent stress. If you're looking at your combination of how all of these are going together, and none of them have stress, then it's going to be on the second to last syllable. But we can see we got one here, we got a stress here, and so then that rule applies. We pick wherever the stress will land based on those rules. Fascinating stuff. There's a whole bunch of them. The W assimilation, we talked about that a little bit. EWE will become double U's. The AWA will become double O's. Vowel assimilation, some vowels will override other vowels to make the vowel harmony. H sometimes will get deleted. We've run into that a couple times already. It'll delete between vowels when neither word is stressed. I think there's 10 total rules. These ones here are all talking about when the H will delete. The past participles and how those will change according to what happens with the verb stem. So these are the things that you're going to have to memorize. I would rather you memorize these rules than memorizing entire sentences because the sentence makes sense to you. If you can understand these rules and you can understand the prefixes and the suffixes, then again, it increases your ability to use words exponentially. Every time you learn one of these, you can put it to use. So for now, what I want you guys to, all I want you guys to focus on is recognizing that something's happened there, right? So as you're going through taklai, I just want you to try to recognize that there's the A that deleted there. Why did that A delete? The word for teeth is tit. It got added right onto the taklai here. What's this suffix? And you can look up these prefixes and suffixes right in the dictionary, and it'll if it doesn't explain it in the translation, you can look it up, and sometimes it'll explain it for you there. Here's a one for to climb. Oh, we can see this prefix is being suggested that it has tense or stress, inherent stress in the prefix. So how is that going to be when it interacts with the rest of the word? Vowel harmony. I'm recognizing here that this, the vowel harmony has changed this. Morphology. It's what happens when we start putting all of these prefixes and suffixes together. I believe I put this worksheet in on the Dropbox, so you can have a chance to look through it a little bit. A lot of these worksheets I got from my time working with Noel, so a lot of them aren't like official, or maybe some stuff has happened since then, but to have them all listed here and give you an opportunity, so it started out as a way of him and I were talking about having some kind of challenge that I could do to test out my knowledge of the rules, and so it's helpful. You got this word. he was savvy enough in the language that he could go through and pick out you could pick out how the he could pick out verb stems pretty quickly that would fit the rule and allow us to exercise the ideas that we were working on. And so you could take a shot at these if you want. I think we put some of the correct answers way down at the end, but it's not a 100% perfect document, but it helps walk through some of these rules. And then I think we tried to change the way that we were doing it at the bottom. He has a really cool chart that he used to use right here. I think it was Janine that was asking about how weak sets and strong sets look. I like the way he sort of laid it out here in these charts. I thought that was fun and interesting. Goes into a little more stress about the hierarchy of how a word takes stress. And we'll go through a few of the more important ones, but it's going to be something that you do a little bit more on your own time, because you're just going to have to build on it, right? You're going to have to build on the stuff that you've learned, and some of this stuff just occurs every once in a while with certain verbs. So I don't want you to feel like you have to have every one of these memorized before you actually start exercising what you're learning. You should be thinking about everything that we've done already, and then when you come across these that have different rules for them, then you can just add them into your speech. Okay, does that make sense? I know it seems like a lot. I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed with it, but that's what's happening in those entries into the dictionary. Well, that's why you see so many that look a lot different from Takalai. They're giving you those examples as a way to give you something to work on, to memorize, to going forward. Maybe referring you to other words or whatever. But this is what makes Nez Perce difficult: memorizing all these rules and applying them. And once you get the hang of it, you've done it a few times or whatever, it makes it a lot easier. You get this idea down, and you've heard the verb for to see, hacken, and you've heard people pronounce it hekitsa. It'll sound funny to you later if you heard somebody say hekissa, and then you don't have to remember it anymore. It just becomes part of things sounding normal. So I don't want you to feel like you have to memorize all of them now. We have to stumble through these things a little bit in order to be able to speak correctly. It's just like listen to other people learn how to speak English correctly. You have to try things out and stumble around with them a little bit. But this document here gives you a lot of them, and some of them you have to read through twice, and you have to really sort of sit down and think about them a little bit, get them wrong a couple times. We have several teachers in the group chat that can help with that kind of stuff. Kristen's really good with linguistic stuff, and Dewey got added to the group chat, and Leslie's in there. So we can all, remind each other when we're testing out the verb conjugation what rules take place, even just by offering another way of saying the word. Okay, so what this is introducing is us knowing the idea of how to conjugate verbs, the concept of that, and now with the working on the morphology, what we're doing is working on being able to conjugate them correctly. So even in English, you can say, I think we used this example before, go. Most of the time when we do things in past tense, we put an ed on the end, and that's part of the system. Like I played, but it doesn't work for go. somebody tries to say goad, and it sounds funny, and so you kind of have to work through a little bit of that. But these are always really predictable, really predictable system. It just a lot of it's based on the fact that our language, when you speak it, sounds very poetic. It has sort of a stress timing to it, and it sounds melodious when you have a really good grasp of it, and a good command of the words and how they sound, and that's one of the things that made people great orators, was being able to move these chunks in and out in a way that that the interpretation reached people at an emotional level or at a spiritual level, and didn't sound robotic or forced. So it takes time, it takes practice to get to that point, and we're just giving you the tools here, so that you can. So we already discussed two of the main ones. We talked about n plus s equals c, and we talked about vowel harmony. Probably the next most important one is talking about stress, which we've covered a little bit already. So I think it was rule number 5, the stress placement of how you conjugate these verbs is going to be really, really important. So understanding how the stress works will be the next big step in conjugating your verbs correctly. So if you're looking for something to write down for tonight, or something to hang on to for tonight as part of our morphology, is understanding this concept right here, how the stress works. Yeah, Andrea, I'm pretty sure you're in there. I double checked. Let me just try something real quick and see if we can reach you out there. Yeah, you're not showing up for some reason. Thought I checked to make sure that you were in there. I'll make sure you get added. Okay, you guys have any questions about that? Is there a part of that you want me to go over again? I was actually really really happy with how well you guys were discussing the concepts that we'd gone over in the group chat already. I think it was pretty cool. Maybe the idea of having an advanced class for people who are picking up on those concepts, might be fun. We do want to keep you in this group chat for a little while though, so you can help people who maybe are struggling with it a little bit. Check your messenger now. Oh, yep, there you are. Okay, cool. Yep, you're in. Oh yeah, so Janine's saying that there was an idea about taking your baby teeth down to the river and throwing them into the river, so you're trading the beaver for strong teeth. Yeah, and I know it's hard to access the dictionary and the spelling. It's something we can help you with on your phone, Janine. We've talked about a couple of different apps. I'll send them to you. I'll add them again to the group chat. I don't know if you're in the group chat or not, or I can message them to you directly. But they'll help you with your stress and your special characters. It should help a little bit with the handouts too when you open those up. Accessing them on a computer is good. I can email them to you, turn them into PDFs once I get them set up here on my MacBook using the keyboard that Kristen got or pointed out for us, the Laser Salish. Is it? No, it's Interior Salish. Using that one, I can get some of these documents switched over. Using the Laser Salish one, you have to buy, and that's what a lot of my documents are in. I don't want you guys to have to buy anything, so I'm trying to get them converted here using my personal machine, and then I can turn them into PDFs, and that'll make it a little bit easier for you. And I'll get them loaded up to the Dropbox as soon as I can get them switched over. I think I got the Nez Perce pronominal prefixes one really close. A couple things there, so maybe this week I can get that one loaded in PDF. This one has quite a long ways to go. So, but I'll work on it, see if I can get it swapped over so you can open it in PDF, and then that way you don't have to worry about the fonts anymore. It's always been a pain for us ever since I started working with the language program, finding a way to get these characters correct. Actually, Lee and I were having a conversation about that, and he was wondering how it worked. And for a while, it was driven by whatever you could accomplish with a typewriter. Whatever characters were available on a typewriter is what we had to work with for printed material. And it's evolved over time. And for lost languages, the stuff that develops the most are the places that you can make money. So stuff gets. Keyboards and things are made in Spanish and Russian and all the different languages that are out there in the world that people are using for business, and languages like ours get sort of left behind. But there's a few places, nonprofit organizations like the Interior Salish website. Again, this is the Interior Salish website. You just type in interiorsalish.com and it'll take you here, so you can get the Sahapton font and keyboard. And I recommend downloading the Salish font and keyboard too. But as far as the documents and stuff, yeah, I apologize, Janine. I just didn't anticipate having to switch back over to my personal computer. I had all the fonts and everything ready on my work computer, but that sort of thing isn't allowed apparently, so I'm a little bit behind, but I'll get them switched over for y'all. So I see in the word that you're offering, Toxpol for beaver, right? Toxpoltit. But yeah, I'm having a little trouble trying to figure out what the last part is there. Nim, I think, is the possessive suffix you're trying to use there. So yeah, that'll be a fun one to look up. I'll mess around in the dictionary. See, don't tell me the answer yet. I want to mess around and see if I can figure out what it says. That's the kind of stuff that's cool that I want us to practice. Sort of practice unpacking. You'll be surprised at how much you learn from just trying to unpack these words. I know it sounds like dodging the idea of explaining all of these things to you one at a time, but it's much more effective if you can do it. If you have I explain the concepts, walk through the rules. I'm here as support, but as you walk through these things, and you can focus on the things that are more important to you. Those are the things that you're going to remember the best. So you got to try to remind yourself why it is why you're doing what you're doing, and now that you have these tools, you can focus on those things. If you want to focus on longhouse words, if you want to focus on animals or things that you're doing around the house, or place names. If you're out in the mountains all the time and you really want to learn the place names, a lot of those place names have really interesting interpretations too, and then you can add them right into your sentences, so they can get used more often, and it'll be easier for people to remember them. So, just use the rules that I'm giving you and the ideas here that I'm giving you to unpack things that you're interested in. That's why the dictionary is important. It's not 100% right all the time. We've figured things out since this thing was published, but it's 1,500 pages. And even if it's 60% right, that's that's a lot of language, and a good place to start and a good place to build. Okay, so I'll have the live broadcast turned into a YouTube video pretty soon. I'll put it over on YouTube. I haven't been getting a whole lot of views, but I hope it's helping somebody. It's not that hard for me to do it, but I think people were reporting my lives, and so my videos were getting taken down, and some of them were disappearing. So that's why, when you spin through my profile, I think we got like 4 or 5 out of the 9 that are actually still up, but recording them and posting them to YouTube is a way that we can sort of get around that. I can't imagine what's so terrible about what we're going over here that it needs to be reported and be taken down, but it's just something that we have to deal with. So next class will be on Wednesday, and then there'll be no class on Christmas, and then the Wednesday after that will be our last class. So we're going to try to go back over some of this stuff. Again, we're going to kind of skip the alphabet stuff, probably skip a little bit of keep the verb conjugation thing really short again, and cover some more of these rules. And then for the last class, I want to point you guys in a good direction. Hopefully have this document ready for you so that you can, kind of study it going forward. And then maybe get some recordings out is what I was hoping to do. My iTunes got deleted off this machine. I won't go into details about how that happened, but I had a pretty extensive library of people who just speaking in the language, and then you could correlate it to text. And so I think that's another big thing that we need to do is listen to some of those old timers who really spoke well in the language. And now that we're able to read and unpack the words as they're coming out, you following along in the book as those people are talking is a really valuable tool. It's a great way to work on your delivery of words when you're talking. It'll help with your pronunciation because you'll be able to follow along, watch them hit the stress, hear them hit all those unique sounds that we have in the language. And so I think at that point you'll have everything that you need to do to get a long ways. And I don't, if we need to do the beginner, I don't know that we need to do the beginner class again and go over all this stuff if the videos are recorded. But if we can get enough people who are at the advanced level, that you're able to do that kind of stuff, maybe we could, move forward with going through all these rules in detail, talking about the hierarchy, and go on about some of the really rare parts of the language that don't get used a whole lot. Maybe talk about old words and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just kind of an idea. Let me know what you guys think. But by the time we're finished next week, next week, you should have just about everything that you need to study the language. And then we'll just keep using the group chat as a way to practice and hone our skills and learn from each other and practice with each other. If you haven't got a language buddy, I still recommend finding that. Trying these things out on your language buddies, a great way to work on your skills too. Okay, all right, I'll see you guys next week.